Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. This video is mostly going to be a preview of the Seahawks against the Rams, thanks to Megan Payton. But first, there's some breaking news that's not good around Seattle. It's going to make a big impact on the game. So I'm here, time to help break it down. Tyler Lockett and Alex Collins have both been placed on the COVID-19 list. The Seahawks made that move on Thursday. The Seahawks had been better than any team in the NFL the past 2 years at avoiding these cases. Now they get hit hard with two key players before their game against the Rams. Now, the way this works, a player who is vaccinated, like I believe both Lockett and Collins are, if they have two negative tests 24 hours apart, they will be able to return. But unless this is a false positive, the odds of that happening are pretty much zero. It's not enough time for it to get out of the system. So fully expect both Lockett and Collins to not play against the Rams this week. Now, the NFL, the NBA, all the major sports leagues getting hit hard right now by these COVID cases. If you are tired of it, type in F in the comments section because I sure as hell am. Lockett's loss is a big one for Seattle. He has been one of the most underrated receivers for years now. He's consistently been able to make big plays, be an explosive threat for Russell Wilson. He's an awesome football player. His loss will be felt significantly given some of the as talented, I'll put it that way, receivers behind him. Maybe a big game for D. Eskridge moving forward. At running back, Seattle should be okay. It means more reps for Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, and it is suddenly Rashaad Penny season in Seattle with Collins out and Penny coming off his best game in ever. 16 carries, 137 yards, and 2 scores for Seattle. Excited to see what he does this week in a must-win game against the LA Rams. Seattle loses this one. They are effectively out of the playoff race, and they're barely hanging around at this current moment. So Lockett, out, most likely. Collins, also out, most likely. Of course, the Lockett loss is certainly a more significant one than Alex Collins. That's what we have here on Seattle Seahawks Today. Breaking news once it happens, and, of course, previews for the Seahawks as well. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. I'm now going to throw it over to Megan Payton for the previously planned preview of the Seahawks against the Rams.
Welcome into Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Megan Payton. We've got a lot to get into on today's show, but I'm starting it off with a question. Will the Seahawks make the playoffs? It's a simple question. Go ahead and get your answers in the comments. Type P for playoffs or type E for eliminated. All right, so the Seahawks have a big game this week on Sunday against the Los Angeles Rams. We are here to preview that game. We're going to give you keys to victories, what they need to do to come up on top, and an important game for them. I mean, they could technically maybe afford to lose this game, but if the Seahawks want a realistic chance at making the playoffs, they've got to win out. And this game is important because right now they are on a good win streak, 2 games in a row. They are still sitting at 5-8, though, a little bit outside of the playoff picture. As you can see, if the playoffs were today, they would not be in it. The 5th seed would be the Rams, the 6th seed would be the 49ers, and the 7th would be the Washington football team. You can see over there in the others category where it all falls, where Seattle is, but they have now gone ahead of the Giants and the Bears. They're tied with the Carolina Panthers, and then, of course, they've got teams in front of them. So these games are important. Their next 4 games, they kind of have to win out, in my opinion. I've said before that there is technically a way in which they, lose 1 game and still make it in there, but they'd have to have a lot of luck. So I'm just going with the realistic route of win all of them. They've got the Rams this week in Los Angeles. Then they go back home to take on the Chicago Bears. Then they play the Detroit Lions, and they end Week 18 away at the Cardinals. I said this before. Cardinals might actually be resting their starters at this point. If that's true, that'll make it a little bit easier for Seattle. But for now, we are focused on this Week 15 game against the Los Angeles Rams. Rams right now at 9-4. Seahawks at 5-8. This game is Sunday, December 19th at 4:25 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you guys are watching. I think it's going to be an interesting one, and there's a lot to talk about this game. Before I give you all of the keys to victories, I am going to tell you our pinned comment for today's show is predict the score. It's been a sec since we've done this one. So make sure right now you go to the comments, let me know your score predictions, and we're going to do something a little bit different here. If you predict the score correctly, I'll go through these comments after Sunday's game. And if any of you guys get it right, I'll shout you guys out on our video, but I can tell if you changed it. So make sure you go predict them right now. All right, if you didn't see yesterday's show, I'll keep you guys updated. The Rams have placed 16 players on the COVID-19 list. Meanwhile, the Seahawks at 0 right now. Hopefully that doesn't change, but it's been a crazy week in the NFL as far as COVID-19 goes. This is going to affect maybe the way that the Seahawks approach this Rams game because they might not be facing some of their best starters. Now, of course, they do still have a chance at playing on Sunday, but their top guys right now that have tested positive for COVID-19 are Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham Jr., Jordan Fuller, and Darrell Henderson. These guys are really important to this Rams team. They've played a huge key into their success this season. Now, just to be said, the Rams are claiming that all of these guys are vaccinated. And if that is the case, that means that they just have to get 2 negative tests within, I think, after 24 hours apart of each other. So there is a chance that all of these guys are back and ready to go by Sunday. But I mean, the Seahawks are obviously hoping that they're healthy, but they're also hoping that maybe they don't have to go against some of these guys. This might be a week that you guys want to bet on the Seahawks. If you're feeling a little lucky, we've got the sports book here at Chat Sports that we want to tell you about. It's chatsports.com/bet. BetUS has a fantastic deal right now. If you use promo code Seahawks125, you'll get a 125% deposit bonus. You put up $100, it can turn into $225. Now you've got an extra $125 of free money to bet on anything of your choice. You can bet on whatever you'd like. You don't have to bet on Seahawks. I'm just saying it'd be more fun. And if you guys go through these steps, show us that you deposited the money, you signed up, you used our promo code, you placed a bet on any game, email us saying that you did this, and we will send you guys over a free jersey. You can get DK Metcalf. You can get Russell Wilson. There's a couple different options. Make sure you email us jersey@chatsports.com. Go through the steps. Show us that you did this. There's also Jamal Adams, too. So a few different cool Seahawks jersey options. Get a free Seahawks jersey. It's a pretty good deal. You're going to get free betting money, and then from us, we'll give you a free jersey. Doesn't seem like something you want to miss out on. All right, let's get into it. These are the keys to victory for the Seattle Seahawks to beat the Los Angeles Rams. The first one I have is that Russ needs to keep on looking like Russell Wilson, and I think he's back, guys. I think he's looking good, and I really think that we're finally seeing the Russell Wilson that the Seahawks are paying a lot of money to. In Week 14 against the Texans, he was 17 out of 28. He put up 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a QB rating of 115.2. But the next key to victory I have is the guy that we couldn't stop talking about last week, which is Rashaad Penny. If we could have another big game from Rashaad Penny, I think the Seahawks are in a great place. Now, I understand Rashaad Penny was going up against a Texans defense. The Rams defense is a little bit better than the Houston Texans, so he is going to have a bit more of a challenge, but you cannot discredit what Rashaad Penny did. And so far in 2021, I mean, really, most of these stats are coming from last week's game, but he's had 43 carries, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 47 long. To be honest, you look at those stats, and it's actually not insanely impressive, but that's just because he had such a standout game last week. He's been struggling with injuries, as we always talk about. I just hope Penny can stay healthy, because if Penny can stay healthy, look like how he did last week, the Seahawks are in a good place. So, Rashaad Penny put up a lot of yards last week. Do we think he's going to have as successful of a game against the Rams? My question for you guys is, will Rashaad Penny have over or under 100 rushing yards? We're going to make our own bets here at Chat Sports. So type O for over if you think he will have a big game like he did against the Texans, or type U for under if you think it's going to be a little bit more average. All right, my third key to victory for the Seahawks to beat the Rams is that they need to play aggressive. Now, that might come across as like very general, like, yes, they need to play aggressive, but I mean that even in the sense of like their play calling needs to be aggressive. The Rams are known for being aggressive. We're going to talk about, just exactly how aggressive they are, but just look at the Seahawks offensive stats for now. Right now, passing yards, they have put up 205.8 yards per game. Rushing yards, 104.4, and they've scored an average of 20.9. That's not bad. Yes, you've got Russell Wilson and Lockett and DK Metcalf. Those numbers are always going to be decently high. I'd say that, the Seahawks are typically a little bit higher than that. Then you compare to a Rams defense. Now, the Rams defense passing yards, they've allowed 246.5 per game. That's not very great either. They've also allowed 100.6 rushing yards per game and 22.5 points allowed per game. So the Rams defense, yes, are they better than maybe the Seahawks defenses right now? Probably, but they're still not as like dominant as you may think. But I think that the key to the Seahawks winning is going to be their aggressive plays, because maybe the Seahawks might be a little bit stronger on offense when you look at Russell Wilson and Lockett and Metcalf and those guys. But the Rams play calling style is known for being more aggressive. And I think the Seahawks need to captivate on that this week. I think we need to see, more aggressive play calling from Shane Waldron, more aggressive play calling from Pete Carroll. We need to be going for it more often. The Seahawks season is kind of dependent, I think, on this game. So why not give it all you have? Right now, clearly the Rams are favorites in this game, but I do think that if Pete Carroll and Shane Waldron go into it with a little bit more of a aggressive win now mindset, they could come up on top in this week 15 game. But I might be, being a little bit too risky over here. So I will ask you guys, should Pete Carroll and Shane Waldron be more aggressive this week? NFL Week 15, Seahawks versus Rams. Type Y for yes if you like them being aggressive, or type N for no if you want kind of the safe calls, more similar to their style in general. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. All right, our next key to victory for the Seahawks to win is that they need to shut down the Rams' run game. Now, the Rams' run game hasn't been insanely fantastic this year. And by the way, as we talk about COVID, we don't know if Darrell Henderson is going to be playing in this Week 15 game, which that would be a big loss for them. So then they're going to be dependent on Sony Michel, who is also really good. In 2021, he's had 103 carries for 426 yards, 2 touchdowns, and his long was 25. So this is where this defensive line is going to need to step up, because the Rams could take over just in the run game alone, even though that hasn't been their strongest suit this year. This is where I think we look at Al Woods, and he's been performing really well, and he had a huge part into the Seahawks win last week. I expect him to have a pretty good game against the Rams, but we need guys like Kerry Hyder Jr. to step up. We need to see a little bit more from Poona Ford, maybe Rasheem Green. These are all people that we want to play hard and play tough to stop the Rams' run game. Now we look over to the Rams' offensive stats before we break down more keys to victory. Now we see what they've done. Now they've been pretty good on offense. That's why the record is the way that it is. They have an average of 287.3 passing yards per game. That's really good. Rushing yards, 97.2. Like I said, not crazy good. That's pretty average. And points scored, 28.2. This Rams offense has looked really, really well. They've struggled in a few games, but they are someone that you've got to be prepared for. Then you flip over to the Seahawks defensive stats, and as we know, it's been a really hard year for the Seahawks defense. There's been moments in spurts where it's like great and you see some improvement, but then, with the injuries, maybe you can blame some of that on Ken Norton Jr. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but passing yards allowed per game, 278.9. That's pretty high. You don't like to see that. And an average rushing yards allowed of 116. Points allowed, 20.2. That's, a little bit lower, but we need to see this defense ready to go to take on a strong Rams offense and a strong offensive play caller in Sean McVay, and obviously a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford. All right, the last key to victory I have for the Seahawks is that they need to cover Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp has been one of the most dominant receivers this year in 2021. He's right now, as of us shooting this video, he is not on the COVID-19 list, so we can expect him to be playing in this game against the Seahawks. In 2021, he's been targeted 136 times. He's had 100 receptions, 1,366 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That is really impressive, guys. And I'm not here to talk try to make the Seahawks feel bad about going up against him, but we just know with the injuries that the Seahawks have been dealing with in their DB room, it's been hard. And so this is why I said, if you missed our video from yesterday, hopefully DJ Reed is ready to go, because I like the way DJ Reed's been playing. That's why I think that the Seahawks need to make sure he's back next year, because I think he's only going to improve. But I think it's going to be hard for them to stop a guy like Cooper Kupp if they don't have their guys out there. We already know that Marquise Blair, Jamal Adams, now Gavin Heslop, those guys are not going to be in. Trey Brown, obviously, also out for the remainder of the year. They've had some unlucky situations in this secondary. So Quandre Diggs, I think he's expecting to have a good game. He's been kind of the, glue that's holding the secondary together. Quandre Diggs has performed really, really well this year. And so I think between him, Ryan Neal, who's going to have a big role this year, and DJ Reed, they can stop him. But the 5 things, as we mentioned, that the Seahawks need to do, in my opinion, Russ needs to look like Russ, which I think is going to happen. We hopefully can see a big game from Rashaad Penny like we did last week. We need the Seahawks to play aggressive, play calling, the style of how they're running it, make sure they're utilizing the time correctly, win time of possession. They need to shut down the Rams' run game. Not really that great of a run game to begin with. I think the Seahawks can do this, and they need to cover Cooper Kupp. So get healthy this week. Get your guys back out there. And by the way, guys, if you guys have any other comments, keys to victories, let me know. The reason why you subscribe to Seahawks Today is so we're all one big family here. We can talk about it in the comments. You guys can let me know what you think. And of course, we are going to be the first to let you know what happens in this game. Make sure you get your score predictions in, because I'll give you guys shout outs if you get it correct.